So I'm on the second part of the notes. Okay, I'm on the second part of the notes now. And so this says function notation. And so on the notes, you see y equals 2x plus 7. Okay. If I want to write that as function notation, right? Does anyone remember what we replace? So think function is an f, right? So instead, yeah, good. So instead of y, I just write f of x, right? So f of x is equal to 2x plus 7. And the reason we like this function notation is because I can put an input in and get an output, so I can get an answer, right? And so what is the input? What could I input? This is a line, right? So we know it's continuous. But if I actually want to try to find some values, what could I input? If you were to make a table, what would you start doing? Yeah, where would you put them in? Good, x. So x is the input, right? So to write it as an input, let's say I just wanted to use -3. So for -3, I'm saying f of -3. What does that tell me to do? Replace the x with the negative. Go ahead. You can say it.
Plug in the -3 with the x.
Perfect. Plug in the -3 with the x. So we're going to have 2 parentheses, and then we're going to put -3 in instead of x plus the 7. Okay? And so now we can actually solve this on the right side. And so with PEMDAS, we do multiplication first. So we get -3 times 2, which is what? Good. -6 plus 7. 1. So what does that mean? That means I end up with a coordinate point of -3, 1 for this function. Okay? So
what was the first parts of this?
What?
What was the other parts of this?
I'm on the notes page, the second part of the notes page. So all it's saying is, how do we write it in function notation? So we were given this equation. And it said to write it in function notation. That meant write it as f of x. And then later in the notes it says, we'll find it when it's f of -3. Yeah, it was given in the notes. Yep. The answer is 1. So the final answer, it depends what it's asking you, but if the final answer would be -3, 1, if we wanted a point.
What does it ask?
Right now it's just showing you how to find the corresponding y value. So the y value would be 1. Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep going on there on that notes page. There's 1 through 6. So if I do okay, so 1 through 6 gives me 2 things. It says use these problems. So it says use f of x is equal to -5x minus 14. And it also says use g of x is equal to -x squared plus 9x minus 1. Okay? So it's giving me 2 functions. It's giving me an f of x and a g of x. And so for the problems, you have to see what it's asking you. Okay? For number 1, it says f of negative 9, right? So it's telling me number 1 is f of negative 9. What does that tell me? What am I supposed to do?
You substitute the x for 9.
Yeah, in which function though? Well, I'm given 2 functions. I'm given an f of x function and a g of x function. So if I'm doing f of negative 9, where do I put the negative 9?
Is it next to the negative 5 or 9?
So what function are you using?
The fx.
Good. So because it says f of negative 9, that tells me to use the f of x function. Does that make sense? So yes, you're going to do negative 5 times negative 9 minus 14. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So we're actually going to get a positive 45 minus 14. So what's my answer? What's 45 minus 14? Okay. So we know that f of negative 9 is going to equal 31. Okay? Bless you. Bless you. Okay. Now if I look at a different problem, okay? If I look at a different problem, let's go to number 4 on the examples. So number 4 says g of negative 7.
Wait, so you just divided. She just said. So you don't do anything to the 31.
That's the answer. Okay, so number 4 says g of negative 7. So what am I doing? Okay, am I using the f of x function or the g of x function?
The G
Good.
equation.
Good, so we're going to use this one. Okay, the g of x function. And then yes, you're right, we're going to do the same thing. So instead of x, I'm going to plug in a negative 7. Now be careful, there's already a negative in the function. So it's negative, and then x is now going to be negative 7 squared plus 9. And then instead of x, I'm going to put negative 7 minus 1. Now, on the test, some of you were getting this portion wrong. If I have a negative number squared, what's always going to happen inside there? It's always going to be positive, okay? So negative 7 times negative 7 gives me a positive 49. However, in this situation, I do have a negative on the outside.
So it would technically be 7.
No, don't do that. Always put it after. So it's going to be negative 7 times negative 7 will give me a positive 49. But then I have the minus on the outside. So I'm actually going to still get a negative 49.
But like if there wasn't.
Then it'd be a positive 49. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to do 9 times negative 7. That's a negative what?
Negative 63.
And then I still have
The minus 1.
the minus 1. Okay, now the only thing left is the subtraction. So you just go left to right in this case. Okay, so negative 49 minus 63 minus 1. What do we get? Negative 113 is what I got. Okay, so that means G of negative 7 is equal to negative 113. Okay. Are we okay with these ones? Because it does get a little trickier in a minute. So I don't want to add to it until you guys feel like you have this one. So all we've done is we're replacing x with whatever's given. And then you know what function to use based on the letter, right? Okay. I wish there was an eraser on this one. I don't think there is. Okay, so I'm going to skip on to number 5. Number 5 looks way different on the, it says f of 1 minus f of negative 4. Okay, so that looks really, really weird. So it says, number 5 says f of 1 minus f of negative 4. Okay? These treat them as two separate problems. So we're going to do this one first and get an answer. And then we're going to subtract whatever we get with this answer. Okay, it's two separate problems. What function am I using? Guys, what function am I using? Okay, so the first one, I'm just going to say f of 1. So I'm going to do negative 5 times 1 minus 14. So I get negative 5 times 1. That's a negative 5. And then what's negative 5 minus 14 more? Good. So f of 1 is going to be a negative 19. We're going to save that. Okay. Then let's do the second part. The second part is going to be f of negative 4. Okay. So if I have f of negative 4, I'm still using the f function because it says f. So I'm going to have negative 5 times a negative 4 minus a 14. Okay, so a negative times negative is a positive 20. So we have a positive 20 minus 14. Good, a positive 6. So f of negative 4 is going to be 6. Now I have the answers to both. So now it's telling me, okay, whatever f of 1 was, well, that was negative 19, minus, right, because that was in the thing, whatever f of negative 4 was. Well, that was 6. So what is negative 19 minus 6? Good. So my final answer in this case would be negative 25. All right, one more before I let you go. I'm going to do number 6. The 6 looks a little weird too. Okay. All right, with 6, we have a 2 on the outside. And then inside of a bracket, we've got G of 12. Okay, so just think about that for a minute. If I have 2 bracket, G of 12. Anybody have an idea? What do you think I'm going to do? What? But I have a function inside. So what do I do with that? Okay, so with these problems, you always want to do the inside first. So kind of like inside parentheses, you want to do the inside first. So I actually want to find out what G of 12 is first. So I'm going to do that first. So the first step is going to be, what is G of 12? Okay, so I'm going to plug in 12 for x. So I'm going to get negative parentheses 12 squared plus 9 parentheses 12 minus 1. Does everyone see what we're doing so far? Okay, so all I've done was I took the 12 and replaced it in for x's so far. Okay? All right, so what is 12 squared? 12 times 12. Woof. 144. But then I have a negative, so I'm actually going to have a negative because it's on the outside, a negative 144. Then I have 9 times 12, and they're both positive. So I'm going to have a plus 108. And then I just bring down this minus 1. Okay, now I just go left to right. So a negative 144 plus 108. It's going to be a negative 36. And then I still have that minus 1. So I get a negative 37. Okay. Now that I have a negative 37, that was the answer to G of 12. But then I take whatever G of 12 is, and I multiply it by 2. Okay, so 37, well, it's a negative 37. So negative 37 times 2 will give us a negative 74. And that's my final answer. Okay, so the trick with these is do the inside first. Okay, then multiply it on the outside. Okay. All right, so the homework is posted. I want you to do all of them except for the word problems. So I believe that's 1 through 19. Okay. And then on